started. So let me introduce myself really quick. My name is Jocelyn Warren. I am the owner-operator of My Way Acres Farm and Fiber. I'm actually a new vendor for WAFA. This is my first month, which is very fitting because I raise Angora rabbits, which is the fiber of the month, or breed of the month, either way. I live in Ohio. We are in the process of renovating a family farm in Indiana, so we'll be located in Indiana hopefully by summertime. We have 14 rabbits, and I also work with some local shepherds and shepherdesses to source local fiber, and I get it milled locally here in Ohio as well. I came to owning rabbits because we're currently renting in town while we renovate the farm. The house was built during the Civil War era, so it's a wee bit dated. Obviously it's been updated here and there throughout the last 100 years or so, but I have 7 kids, and that's a lot of kids for a little house. So we're working on renovating that, and hopefully we'll be in there soon. So while we're in town, I got tired of waiting to have my sheep, so I got tiny sheep, essentially, which is what my rabbits basically are. So it gave me a source of fiber that was local, that was mine, that I could learn and play with, and I didn't have to feel quite so guilty learning how to spin. And that kind of grew from there. And you find a cute rabbit and bring it home, and then eventually we started breeding and had rather large litters right off the bat. So we are now up to 14 rabbits, which will probably be downsizing before we move. So there's that. So I learned, there's a couple disclaimers. One, I am almost entirely self-taught, so if I do it differently than you were taught or someone else does it, then that's part of the reason. And then I kind of just learned trial by fire kind of thing. And this is, my grooming is for home use, fiber animals, pet animals kind of thing. This isn't something that you would want to do. Like, I'm not familiar with show or 4-H or anything like that, so I know that they have different requirements. So mine's just mostly for collecting fiber. So let me show you. We'll start with some tools. And this is my actual grooming basket, so it's a hot mess. But I have all sorts of different types of brushes because everything kind of has a different job. As you can tell, I've been grooming half the day. So I have a couple of these pen brushes. These are nice because the pins actually twist. So if you're trying to comb out mats, or even if you like pluck to harvest the fiber, this is another variation of that. The pins spin, and these are really good for harvesting fiber. This one I use for primarily getting the skirt area along the ground detangled and fluffed out. This one is great for harvesting fiber when they are ready to go, which you'll see here in a minute, because the rabbit that we're going to groom today is already shedding and ready for their fiber to be harvested. And then just standard combs, another pin brush, and then I have 3 different clippers, because nothing is worse than being in the middle of grooming and lo and behold the battery dies and you have a half-naked bunny. So that and Angora fiber is actually really, really hard on clippers, so I end up having to get a new one every 6 months or so, because it dulls the blade because it's so like fine, and it's like almost like a mist because it's so fine and fluffy. So lots of clippers, and then of course scissors and nail scissors. So you could basically just get away with a regular comb and I'd say a pen brush if you were just getting started, basic necessities. And then obviously you would need some nail scissors because they need to be trimmed on a regular basis. And then putting all those COVID masks to use. I always have one, so when I blow out the rabbits, which I'll show you a video of that in a second because it's really loud, so I decided to do a video that I will hopefully be able to show you so that y'all didn't have to hear how loud it is. But I wear these because when you blow them out, their dander, it's like a big puff of smoke. So Angora rabbits usually need to be groomed once a week. More frequently, probably 2 to 3 times a week, just quick little cleanups. If they are in full coat or close to being groomed, needing to be sheared. And you could probably go every week, week and a half if they have recently been sheared, but you have to keep up everything because it's important for the fiber quality. Otherwise, they mat really easily, especially in areas of high friction, such as, you know, right behind their ears, all the way around their neck from, you know, the friction from rotating, armpits, and their belly, and then the skirt right along the edge of the, you know, where their body meets the ground, because that gets rubbed and messed with a lot. And then, of course, handy dandy cornstarch. If you accidentally clip too much on their nails or you accidentally nick them, it's really good for helping to clot. And then I also use it for, I have some very dirty boys that pee on, like the kids call it ninja peeing, essentially, and they're marking their territory, so they like basically spin around really quick and pee. Well, when there's something the pee deflects off of, they end up just peeing on themselves a lot. So this is nice because you can't get Angoras wet. It drops their body temperature quite a bit, and it can actually kill them if they get too wet and too cold. So you can't give them a bath. So if they're really dirty, I'll massage the cornstarch into their hair and then comb out a lot of that and then blow out the rest. And it works fairly well. Sometimes you still have to kind of get just the hair wet and get it out. But between the two, and then blow drying them or blowing them out right afterwards, helps keep all that going. Okay, so let me see if I can show you. So step 1 in grooming is to use the blower. And as you can imagine, this is kind of a loud process. So hopefully you can see this. I went ahead and did a video earlier. I don't know if you can see it's like a puff of smoke when you start grooming them. And that's all the dander that's sitting on their skin. You know, it's just sloughed off skin cells and whatnot. That's all of that getting blown. The blower I use is just a generic animal grooming pet blower. You can find, I got mine off of Amazon. So I just keep blowing until I don't see any dust, dander anymore coming out. And then I also, this guy he has a habit of over grooming. As you can see, he's trying to help me groom him. So he ends up matting really bad on his shoulders and along his skirt line, anywhere he can reach to groom. He's really bad, this guy. This is Hazel. He's actually who I'll be pulling in to do the rest of the grooming demo on. And you can see some of the matting. And the other thing I look for when I'm blowing to know if I'm done or not is if there's tangles in there or there's tangles trying to form, it'll kind of look like a web shape. I'm not sure if you can see some of that. Sorry, my studio is our Florida room, sunroom, so it's really, the glare is really bad. But because the more you use a comb to like brush out their hair, it actually causes more tangles and matting and knotting. This way it separates all the hairs from one another and it keeps it from forming those mats. So once they're blown out, that is when the rest of the grooming occurs. So I'm going to go get our our volunteer for grooming, Hazel, that we just saw. So give me just 1 second and I'll be right back with Hazel. So here we have Hazel. My kids are yelling "Hi, Bunny" from the house. So when I'm grooming them, I have a table that you saw in the video that I groom them usually out in my dye studio / bunny barn that I built out there. So I usually just let them kind of wander around on the table and kind of just groom whatever they give me first, so that it's less of a stressful experience. And then, as you can see, they are very fluffy. So this guy is ready to harvest his fiber. You can see some of it's already started coming off. A lot of people are concerned about Angora fiber and how ethical it is, because there's been a lot of misinformation about them. It's actually their pelt that you're getting. But it's not, and it doesn't have to be an inhumane harvesting experience. And I feel like the term plucking is kind of misleading, because you're not actually ripping the hair off the bunny. You're not like plucking a chicken, you know. So it's basically the top layer of hair has been shed, and it's holding on to the new layer. So all you're doing when you pluck is you're separating those two fibers and removing it from the animal. It's not attached anymore. I always compare it to having a sunburn, and when you start peeling, that new skin has come up underneath it, so you're just removing the old dead skin. So that's essentially all that you're doing when you are plucking. So you can either, when they're ready to harvest, you can either pluck or you can shear with the clippers. I personally prefer plucking because there's no risk of me cutting the animal. I like the end product a lot better. There's no blunt edge that's been cut, and there's no risk of second cuts. So step 2, after we blow out the rabbit, is to hit the high friction areas with either a pen brush or something like this, and you're essentially just trying to get any sort of tangles that have formed out. And you can, like, I don't if some of you straighten or blow dry your hair, you want to kind of section it out similar to you would to you. So I'll pull it up and then I'll brush down a little bit at a time. And I wouldn't do this to the whole rabbit. I would only do this to the areas that are prone to tangling. I also have, for areas that brush is a little too big to go in, I use this pen brush. So like right here in between his ears is a high tangle area. And then you just pull the ears forward, and then on the back side of the ears. And you want to take it nice and easy because they have paper thin skin, like super ridiculously thin skin. So you can actually, just by like tugging too hard, pull their skin with hair attached. So you got to be very gentle, nice and easy. And that's another reason I like to pluck versus clip, is because they can kind of just hang out and wander around, and they're not having to be restricted. So I'll take the comb and do his little forehead, and then I try and keep mine, they're like, I call them their mutton chops, basically. I try and keep those trimmed down, especially on the boys, because that's where their scent and oil glands are. So they'll rub it on anything that they can get a hold of, me, the table, their cage. So that area receives a lot of extra friction, added on top of the fact that they've got that waxy scented oil that secretes from their cheeks. And it's a recipe for complete matting, and it'll turn into this big like solid mass that is then rather difficult to get out. So I tend to keep them trimmed pretty close, and anytime I'm even just a quick groom, I always make sure that area is brushed through so it doesn't start matting. So you can see right here how I don't know if you can see it. In theory, you can see it. The texture of this skin or this hair is really crinkly, wavy. This is from right next to where those scent glands release that oil, and it turns into this big, like, crusty chunk. So I'll pluck those and remove those, because if not, that will continue to build up, and that whole area will start to mat. So, and then I kind of go along, and here's another knot. So the biggest thing with getting rid of knots is, like I said, if you try and yank, you could pull skin or hurt the rabbit, or at least traumatize it. So what you do when you come across a knot that's not bad enough that you need to cut out, you could probably still save the hair. Like this right here isn't that bad. What you do is you pull it sideways, and you're basically dividing the knot just like that. And then once you have it split up into finer sections, you can usually, starting at the tips, work your way up. And that's the biggest thing. It took me forever to figure that out, and I spent so much time just cutting them out and wasting fiber. And depending on the season, my rabbits are in an enclosure outside, so they're, whatever the temperature is outside, that's basically what it is for them. So I try and leave their hair long and try not to trim very much over the winter. And then during the summer, I keep their hair really, like if it's not prime, I shave it. So their legs, their feet, their bellies, their chests, back behind there, and I'll shave their ears off. Another thing that a lot of people are surprised to learn about is that Angora wool is actually 7 times warmer than sheep's wool. So these guys love cold weather, and they don't do well above 80 degrees. So if you're considering getting an Angora, that's something to think about, is what you would do with them, or how you would keep them cool during the summer if you're going to keep them outside, or if they're going to be inside, then obviously it's irrelevant. But so, like I said, this guy's ready to as you can see, he's ready to be sheared. So the way I do that, like I said, I prefer plucking. And I usually start with the prime, and I comb in sections to loosen up those the old hair from the new hair. And then once it's kind of loosened up, it'll come off very easily with minimal tugging. And as you can see, you're just separating. It's like Velcro. You're just separating the Velcro. It doesn't hurt them, obviously, as long as you're not like yanking on new hair. But if you just grab the little wispy tips and pluck, that's it. And then you're left with this gorgeous cloud that you can spin directly from, because of the grooming that they receive. There's no lanolin. They're in cages. I do let mine run around on the ground in a playpen, but they get groomed after that. So there's no need to wash it ahead of time. Some people still choose to, but you don't necessarily have to. It's all personal preference. And because you're blowing them out, most of the dander that people are sensitive to are removed from the fiber before harvesting it. That's why I always blow them out before I start harvesting any of the fiber, so that dander is not in there. And it's a very clean hair. So you can, from this point, you can either spin or combine. My favorite, which I'll be doing another demo later this month, about blending Angora with wool. Because like I said, it's 7 times warmer than wool is, sheep's wool. So sometimes it's actually too hot, especially for things that are like right up against your neck. I know a lot of people find it a little overwhelming how warm it can be, and it has no memory like wool does. It's worse than alpaca. If you've experienced alpaca's lack of memory, it's actually worse than that. Which is why I like blending it. I like to do either a 70-30 with wool, or kind of like a 30, a third and a third and a third of alpaca wool and Angora, or honestly is my favorite. But like I said, we'll talk about that when I do the demo. But you can also, like I said, just spin it straight from the cloud. I know that there's people, I'm sure you've seen them online, where the people that will just sit here and spin straight off their rabbit. You could do that, because like I said, it just comes right off, and as that twist happens, that it'll pull the next little section. I just I don't trust my rabbits to sit on me and not pee for that long, so I've never really tried it. But that would be, it's fun to do. It's a really cool way to bring attention to the fact that these rabbits don't mind what we're doing. And despite the very negative statements that have been made, or, you get the occasional video that comes out where people are not being very nice in harvesting. And I like to dispel that, because it's a very gentle process as long as it's done correctly. And then that's about it. And then as far as, that's harvesting and then grooming the body. And then in order to trim their nails, there's a couple ways that you can do that. Obviously, we have to flip them over, which they are not entirely pleased about. So you can either football hold him, so his little head's back here, secured. And then I have access to his feet and tail, because a lot of times, like, I'll keep all of this, even in the winter, I try and keep around their tail area clean for, hygienic purposes, because that'll get in the wool. And then sometimes you have to get back here to groom the area that's touching the ground when they're resting. So we'll flip them like that. And the compression, the little bit of compression, helps kind of soothe and calm them. Obviously still not their favorite, so I'll be quick about this part. So their little toes, they have nails that grow. They're very similar to a dog's, cat's nails, whatnot. And then you move the hair out of the way and clip right here. This is also how you can see his belly has been shaved here. And like I said, I try and keep his belly, their bellies clean and clear for temperature and for hygienic purposes. So you can trim their nails that way, trim up that. And so that's one way to do it, is the football hold. Another way, another way I like to do it, which, sorry, he's not the biggest fan, is you kind of put their little head in between your knees, and then you have full access to everything, and then 2 free hands. So it's kind of just a matter of what you need to do. And then he needs his nails trimmed up here, so I will show you guys that real quick. I try and keep them down pretty well, because they will draw blood if they catch you with their little kicks or their claws. So aside from, it's, in their best interest, because sometimes they can get caught in the cage or whatnot. And luckily this guy, he's got clear nails, so I can see where the quick is. But they're, like I said, they're a lot like a dog's nails, where you have to be careful not to get into that quick, that nail bed. I usually only have to do that like once a week or once every other week. And then when it's time to flip him back over, just flip him like that. So that's essentially it. It's not a complicated process, but it's very time consuming, especially if you try and harvest via plucking, because you're sitting here pinch by pinch plucking an entire animal. But it's made a little bit quicker by the brushes if you loosen them up with the brushes first, and then it'll come right out. And then I've got this one. A lot of times I can go through and it'll help pull out a lot very quickly, but because it's so spaced out, it's not like tugging on their hair, it's just loosening it up. So that's basically it. I don't know if anybody has any specific questions about grooming or harvesting. And I think I'll be able to see them. But if y'all have any questions, just go ahead and type them in the box, I guess. And I'll see what I can do about answering them about either rabbits or even our farm or whatnot. While I finish getting Hazel here done. This stuff is like dust. It goes everywhere. So that's another thing. If you do Angoras, be prepared to be covered. I was picking some out of my eyelashes right before we started. Sorry, I'm trying to see any comments. But of course I can't because I'm on the spot. Let me see if I can do this. What do you think, Hazel? Okay, well, I don't see any comments, so if you do have any comments, feel free to, see, I have some sticking in my hair. If you do have any questions about raising Angoras or grooming or whatnot, feel free to throw them in the comments and I can answer them after the fact, or you can PM me and I would love to help. I think Angora is an amazing fiber and pet, and it's a great way for those of you that can't have your own flocks of sheep to have tiny sheep. So I really love to spread the knowledge and love of these rabbits. So thank you for joining me this Saturday. Hopefully it's beautiful where you are. So I'm going to finish grooming Hazel and then maybe spin. So hopefully you do too. All right, take care. Bye.